I'm closing. Turn to your neighbor and say, I don't mean a thing. I was preaching the other day and I told the church where I was preaching, I said, y'all turn to the neighbor and tell him he's almost done. I heard somebody from the second row say, I ain't about to lie in church. I done been down south about 16 months, so if I sound like I'm from there, it's because I'm from there. I say y'all, and I'm fixing to go get my truck and all kinds of stuff. So if you need interpretation, see Dean right after church. He'll help you with that. What did Elijah do? He positioned himself for the harvest. He did three things. Let me give them to you. Number one, he prophesied what he hears. After the victory in 1 Kings 18, Elijah begins to move in faith. He knew that this was more than just a manifestation of God's power. He understood that this was just the beginning. God had broken through for the purpose of bringing his chosen covenant people back to himself. Elijah killed the prophets of Baal and then turned to Ahab and said, go up, eat and drink, for there's the sound of an abundance of rain. I want you to note that this victory produced a sound. There is always a sound that accompanies revival. Every move of God will be accompanied by a sound. Many of the songs that we sing today, and songs even from yesteryear, they were birthed in a revival or in a move of God. God rides on sound. God gains entrance on sound. And when God shows up, there's a sound in the earth. In the 90s, there was a revival that broke out in Pensacola. Many of you know about that. It's called the Brownsville Outpouring. I went down there several times. Why? Because the Lord told me to. I'm not one that just makes pilgrimages to places and that kind of thing. But the Lord said, I want you to go. I got a hold of a tape, and I saw the manifestations of the Spirit on that video. And I laid in the floor, and I wept before the Lord. And the Lord said, I want you to go. And it took me several months to get there, and I went down there. And while I was there, as the worship would ascend up to heaven, there was a sound that I could hear over that church. I call it the glory sound. I call it the sound of his presence. I could just hear it. And every time I'd hear it, something would just go through me. I could just hear the sound that was coming from that worship. I'm not talking about it was the instruments or it was a song that the choir or the praise team was making, but it was a sound, I believe, that was released as a result of their worship. I've heard it in past revivals that we had here in Baltimore. At distinct times, I would hear that sound. When God is about to do something, there will be a sound from heaven that will be released on the earth. God gains entrance through sound. He rides on sound. In Exodus 19:18, now Mount Sinai was completely up in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. Psalms 46:6, the nations raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, and the earth melted. Ezekiel 43:2, and behold, the glory of the God of Israel came from the way of the east. His sound was like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone with his glory. In Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 4, they heard the sound of a mighty rushing wind. Elijah begins to speak what he hears before he sees it.
Woo! Come on. Yes, sir.
The Bible teaches in James 1:19, so then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. What did he speak? He spoke forth the word of the Lord. Why is that important? Now listen to me real quick. I'm going to say this several times. The word of the Lord creates a pathway for God to work.